And the global COVID-19 lockdown has unprecedented impact on our personal and professional lives. This chaotic situation is forcing companies across the globe to rethink their business strategies. Now, most business leaders have decided to launch digital transformation initiatives to keep businesses running as smoothly as possible during the COVID-19 outbreak and to better prepare for the recovery phase. But let's look at how that is playing out in Africa, and I'm being joined by the founder and chief narrative officer of Clio's Advisory in the UK, Ted George. Hello, Ted. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Hi, nice to be here.
Now, COVID-19 is forcing everyone to digitalize rapidly. How are countries in West Africa responding?
Well, I think we've seen actually a remarkable response from all across West Africa, because, of course, West Africa is not new to outbreaks. We had the Ebola outbreak, and there were a lot of digital innovations that were created during that time, which are now showing their worth. We also have many countries where everyone has a mobile phone, or at least nearly everyone does. Many people are starting to do e-commerce anyway, and this is really, if you like, speeded it up. So I think what is very encouraging to see is that the general digitalization of the way people live their lives and do business in West Africa is accelerating thanks to COVID.
And I'm sure you've been following the market here in Nigeria. How are mobile payments and e-commerce adapting to COVID here in Nigeria?
What is interesting is to see in terms of mobile payments. It's always been the desire of governments and banks to be able to introduce universal free banking, and we're starting to see that. There are a number of mobile companies who've said that they will not charge anyone if they're doing minimum payments, let's say below $1, below 50 cents. And that really is the beginning of universal free banking. And we've seen that all across West Africa. We've also seen e-commerce adapting as well. What's interesting is if you think of all of the boda drivers, many taxi drivers, all the different kind of Uber and hail riding firms that there are in Nigeria, many of them, of course, saw a catastrophic drop in traffic. People simply couldn't travel to work. But a lot of them are now redeploying, of course, and they're actually delivering food instead or medical supplies. So I think we're actually seeing quite a lot of the entrepreneurship of Nigerians, particularly in the e-commerce and payment space, saying, how can we use these tools and still actually work, rather than just saying, I can't do work my traditional way, I have to give up.
Blockchain has often been seen as a solution looking for a problem. Has it found its ideal user case with COVID?
Well, I would hope so. I think blockchain has been massively overhyped, and I think there are many times you simply don't need it. There are many times that actually an email or a WhatsApp message would be enough. But I think where blockchain is really showing its value is probably what you don't see in the economy. It's the deals going on between enormous companies where they need electronic signatures. Only 6 months ago, many lawyers around the world would say, I won't accept an electronic signature. They will now, because there's no other choice. If you think of exchange of documentation, it might be contracts. It might be an authorization to release 100,000 tons of cocoa or make a payment of $500,000. All that stuff can be done by blockchain networks. And the point about blockchain networks is that they come with a very high level of digital trust. It's not just like sending someone a PDF that can be corrupted. You cannot hack documents on the blockchain. So I think what we could see here as well is a lot of these blockchain platforms where, for example, you can go and you can buy assets, you can invest in different things using the blockchain. I think we're going to see them grow as well during this period. In fact, we've already seen quite a lot of investment in those because they offer this ability to actually do a high level of trust in transactions that you can only do digitally with a blockchain.
Now, Ted, how would you say social media networks are being used to combat the virus?
Well, I think the thing that can be said is Nigeria is a pioneer when it comes to the use of social media networks and outbreaks. If we think back to the outbreak of Ebola in Nigeria, it was deliberately spread to Nigeria by effectively a maniac. And it was thanks to the incredible efforts of many Nigerians who immediately started deploying on Facebook and on WhatsApp and various other platforms to disseminate information. And we've seen, for example, there's a campaign at the moment which is called Don't Go Viral, which is all about making sure that there is no misinformation spread during the virus, making sure people get it. And we've seen all the different social networks across West Africa leveraging that. One other thing as well is to do with how people use their telephones. There's a thing called a CDR, Call Data Record. It shows live where you are. one of the things that they're doing is they're actually tracking people when they're either calling up to report an outbreak of coronavirus, or whether they're ringing up for information. And if you track that live, you can actually immediately see where there potentially might be an outbreak somewhere, and you can immediately react. Bombard the area with text to tell people there's an outbreak, you must do the following things, but also send the resources to where they're needed, because they're quite limited. So I think social media, we're seeing an incredible flourishing of here, particularly so people can be properly informed about what they need to know.
Interesting. Now, is COVID a great opportunity to boost green energy?
Well, I hope so. I think basically we've seen green energy being enormously pushed. If you particularly think of some places like in Nigeria, where there is a huge amount of spending which goes on fuel and particularly importing of petroleum products from other countries, there's a real opportunity here to push very strongly for solar power, and particularly distributed solar models. And we've seen this, because if you have your own solar power in your own household, you don't need anyone to come and help with maintenance. You don't need to go out and get fuel. You don't need to mix with other people. So I think we're seeing a number of green solutions that are being offered, which are looking much more attractive now in the view of COVID and the impact it's having.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Ted. Ted George is the founder and chief narrative officer of Clio's Advisory in the UK.